I wanted to share a few things, what I've learned from meditation and Qigong over the years. And that is the only way out is in. And I know that in some ancient traditions in China, that when somebody has a major shock or trauma, they are called back to their body. And they do that in shamanic cultures too, of course. It's probably a shamanic practice. And it's very profound wisdom, actually. And often when we are traumatized or shocked, we do lose connection with our bodies. And for some people, the journey of healing is really coming back to this body, coming back to this home. And sometimes it's not until a big illness or something happens in our life, comes knocking at the door, do we realize that we have been disconnected at some level, and we have to return to those disconnected parts in order to heal. And that can be quite frightening sometimes, or quite challenging, because our minds want to run away and escape from pain. And they do so in many different ways. It could be through food, it could be through entertainment, it could be through alcohol, it could be through drugs. But one day life says, oh, okay, it's time to come back. And some of these wounds, some of these disconnected parts can be unconscious until something goes wrong. Something is revealed to us, and it's time to heal or not. And so that's a choice we have to make. Are we ready to heal? And so in the wild, if a wild deer gets chased by a tiger and it escapes, it will shake. It will shake, 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 shake. It will discharge all the trauma or the adrenaline, and then it will just go about its business like nothing ever happened. But with us humans, what is a natural, there's a danger, we're being chased by a tiger, we run, we escape. What happens is, rather than just discharging that adrenaline, that fear, that necessary survival, we hang on to that trauma, we internalize it, and we don't discharge it, and then it becomes a problem later on. So Qigong is a very good way of bringing us back into our body, but not only at a physical level, at a very, very subtle, energetic level. And actually, when we can really tap into this subtle energetic, it becomes much more pleasurable than anything we can get from our five senses, from any five pleasures from the five senses, whether sounds, taste, sights. There's this really deep, subtle energy in the body that we can access to really support and heal, and is also quite pleasurable. But we still need to do the work. We still need to do the emotional work, and we cannot run away from emotions, in my experience. And I know that my mind is very clever and very tricky, and sometimes unconsciously it's tried to use practices like concentration or Qigong to kind of get rid of uncomfortable feelings that it doesn't want or doesn't want to deal with. And that doesn't work, because if we don't deal with those emotions and patterns at the root, we may kind of plaster them over for a bit, but eventually the cracks will come, and they'll come back until we fully deal with them. So how to do that? Well, firstly, we need to find some ground to our experience. So we need to really feel the ground supporting us, the ground beneath us. Just think when we get emotional, literally it's like the ground just disappears from underneath our feet and all the energy rushes up into our head. And so we have to learn, even with triggers, to not lose our ground. And it's a practice we can repeat. And what do I mean by ground? I don't just mean this flat surface underneath my feet, although that's a very good start. And for some people, that can be a massive shift, just that. But to connect with this energetic earth, this energy earth, and to really connect with the idea that everything is energy. It looks solid to us, to our sense, to our eyesight, but it's really all energy. And we can start to experience the quality of the earth somatically, even like we're standing in the earth energetically, even standing in the earth and merging beyond to the blue sky below us. You know, there's no boundaries. It's no boundaries. It's not just like this, we're limited by this surface. So to find ground somatically in our body, we can start with feeling our feet, feeling our seat on the chair, giving us stability. And the next thing we want to do is to feel the space above our heads. There's this huge boundless space above our heads. And often, again, we feel that we're this very limited body that has to protect itself. But it's not the reality. Everything is energy and we're interconnected. So we have this energy above our head we can tap into. And if you can't experience that feeling, you can even think of the blue sky that even expands all around. So we have ground and we have more space to hold our experience. This is really important. We need this stable container to start to be able to open and release. And this is a practice, a very important practice. And then when we have our stable ground, and we have our blue sky, the space above our head, and we have this central column, our spine, our nervous system, centered between the earth and the sky. And so we find that connection. And the spine is also supporting us, and this open awareness around us. You think about the blue sky, the weather, different weather patterns can move through, they're constantly changing, nothing is fixed, nothing is stuck. And the blue sky is just the blue sky. It's not trying to get rid of anything, it's not trying to argue with anything, it's just the blue sky. And so that's kind of, we can learn from the blue sky. And so it's like the breath. The breath comes in, the breath goes out. We breathe in what the trees breathe out, and the trees breathe in what we breathe out. Everything is interconnected. Our lungs look like upside down trees. We're breathing with the trees, breathing with all living things. And there's this rhythm, this natural rhythm of open and close. The breath is constantly flowing. You can't grasp it. You can't hold on to it. It's opening and closing, and life is flowing like a great river. But what happens is we get caught in little vortexes in that river, and we get stuck on all different levels, energetically, mentally, physically. And so we need to kind of start entering back into that river. And so we can do that by feeling the breath, but we don't need to concentrate on a single point because that can create a lot of tension. We need our foundation, we need our ground, we need our blue sky, and maybe the breath comes and the breath goes. And we can find that will always bring us back into the present moment just going through our experience and letting the emotions come up, the pain, the discomfort, and just letting the breath flow through. And when we can even start to investigate the emotion, if you want to, you can, where do you feel it in your body? How big is it? Where does it begin? Where does it end? Where's the area? Is it hot? Is it cold? What's the sensation? Is it pulsing? Is it kind of jittering, jumping? So seeing it from an energetic point of view. And just allowing it to open. But slightly standing back, like you're standing in a river, and you have to kind of feel your ground, feel your head touching the sky, so that you're not knocked over by the river. You can feel your spine. You have to slightly stand back so you're not pushed over, and you're not trying to grab bits of wood or debris that float past. You're just keeping your center, keeping your ground. And I notice in my own experience that often the fear of fear is more painful than the fear itself, or the fear of anxiety, or the aversion to it, or the not wanting the discomfort. So just being open to discomfort, to unpleasant feeling, and learning patience, and learning that we are not the emotion. We are not this. It's just an energy arising, a weather pattern in the blue sky. And finding ways to open and to relax the body is very important. But when we talk about relaxation, we don't mean just relax, floppy. So in Chinese, they talk about song, to relax like a pine tree with long flowing hair. So again, the pine tree is rooted into the earth. It's going straight up into the blue sky. And you think about the pine tree, it tends to be open, this kind of sense of expansion. So we can think of relaxation of heaven, earth, expansion. And that relaxation requires a little bit of tension, but not tense, stressed, but, alert, awake, slightly activated without being stressed. And we can allow these energies to start to release. And this is very important, otherwise we get caught on this constant loop whereby the mind, the negative emotions affect the body, and then the stress of the body affects the emotions and the mind. And we get caught in this continuous loop. And the other thing that we need to be mindful of is not to crystallize past experience. So when a memory comes up, or and somebody that we don't like or we've had a difficult relationship with, not to crystallize them. When we start to crystallize things, they become form. The formless becomes form, it becomes stuck, it becomes solid. We just want the forms to just flow into formlessness. And so we're more interested about the emotions than the underlying emotions, than the story or the people. So when I notice myself starting to grab onto a memory or a person, just to come back to the breath, or come back to my ground, come back to the sky. Because once we crystallize them, we get into the vortex, or we can become in like a cave, into a fragment of experience, and we get stuck and we lose connection with the flow of life. So the only way out is in. So find your ground, find your space, and start to open and release.